All right, guys, we got a very, very special guest in the house today. It's your boy Footsdaking as always. Thank you all for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Now, I gotta say, I want to set this table, and I want to set this table like my grandmother's coming over. I don't want to set this table like it's your girlfriend coming over. Nah, we're not doing that. No. I want to set this table like it's your grandma coming over. You haven't seen her in a few months. You know, she hasn't seen your newborn. I want to give her a spread. I want to make sure that the napkins, because this dude is, by my accounts, when it comes to defensive football, okay, and I don't, you guys know me. I'm gonna give flowers if they need to be given. This dude, when it comes to defensive football, philosophies, personnel, literally, in my opinion, guys, I'm so serious about this, second to none. I'm very serious about this as far as studying the game from a very unbiased lens, just knowing ball. And so I want to set this table because I was telling Cody pre-show, a lot of you guys know that I coach, and I listened to Cody. He was on a coaching and coordinators podcast. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And his passion for defense back then, exceptional. Like, I mean, I'm just like, I'm in the car trying to get notes. I'm trying to take my notepad. And I'm like, dude, this dude is money when it comes to how he's explaining defenses, what you're doing to stop spread and different schemes and all of this stuff. And so I look on Twitter, and shout out to the homies over there on Locked On, Landon McCool, Marcus Mosher. They do great work over on that podcast. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this the same Cody who's with Match Quarters? And it is Cody Alexander of Match Quarters, defensive savant. He is going to really lock us in with Matt Eberflus's scheme and how he wants to deploy these guys with the new free agents, his new pieces. Cody Alexander, I know that's very long-winded, but I had to do that. I believe in giving flowers. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. I really, really appreciate you. That means a lot.
Cody, I want to ask you this. How did Match Quarters start? Because I want to direct everybody in the chat box as this fills up. How did Match Quarters start, your website? And like, where did your passion for defense come?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, with the defensive part, I have tried to play offense my entire life. I have tried. Trust me. My dad is an offensive coordinator, longtime offensive coordinator in the Kansas City area. I'm from Liberty, Missouri, which is a really good football program in that area. So I tried. Just God kept telling me I was going to be a defensive guy. So and then of course he gave me the punishment of being like the only white corner out there. So I played corner and I played on defense. And so I had this I have this thirst of knowledge for football, and I just want to learn more about the game and study the game. And I like how you put unbiased. I don't run a fan site. I don't tell you, hey, this is the only way to do things. I'm more or less just like a defensive think tank. And so that's kind of my approach. And that's where Match Quarters started from, is that I kept looking around, and I don't like football books are terrible, by the way. If you've ever read one, they're usually not very good, because football coaches, especially defensive coaches, aren't like the most, they're not English teachers, right? So they're not writing a lot of literature. So you get this, and then there's not access to information, deep knowledge information that's digestible. And so it came about, I was going to be a defense coordinator at a 5A level, and the head coach got fired, and I was going to sit on my hands for a year. And basically I kept my job, but I knew I wasn't going to have a role. And so I just had all this creative energy, and I was like, hey, what's the worst place you can put it? Let's put it on the internet and let's see what people say. And people liked it. And so it's grown. Now I do it full time. So I don't coach anymore. I literally just study ball all day long. And that's kind of the genesis of it. It started, people liked it, people started, paying for my own work. And that's what kind of feeds my family. And I'm really appreciative of it.
Cody, feeds your family. The work is exceptional. And there's a reason why I think that if not here shortly, you'll probably be on the NFL staff as far as doing analytics or trends. I mean, because you just have that type of range, and the passion is there. What I actually want to do now is, for my audience, and especially for everybody who's going to catch this on the replay, I'm going to share my screen, Cody, and I want everybody to just see Cody's page on Twitter. I want to make sure that we're over there following as people come in. This is his page on Twitter. This is actually, let me get this down. This is okay. This is actually all of his stuff, his work. And I read this. I was looking for stuff on Matt Eberflus, kind of doing a deep dive because I think there's some things that I wanted to spell today on Eberflus. And I read this article, one of the best articles that I've read on a guy, just a complete from a guy. And when it comes to defense and gives you, I mean, this is free, guys. This one is free. Mm-hmm. The metrics, just the detail, the literal detail of this was before free agency, how guys will make sense. I mean, look at the graphics. Literally, guys, you are missing out if you don't subscribe to Cody Alexander. He makes me a smarter football fan. I'm telling you guys that now. Okay. That being said, Cody, I want to ask you, when you first found out that Matt Eberflus would be the defensive coordinator, you're in Texas, for those of you guys who don't know. When you found out that Matt Eberflus would be the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, what were your initial thoughts? Because I had mine. Like, I always thought of Matt Eberflus as being a guy that played it safe, Tampa 2 vibes, make you drive the length of the field and squeeze the defense and certain things like that. But then there's also, like, has he ever had a defensive end like Micah Parsons? Has he ever had corners like Deron Blaine and Trayvon Diggs? So just initially when he got the job, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, initially I was like, okay, this is the easy button. This is a 4-3 guy. He plays close post defense, meaning that there's going to be a safety in the middle of the field about 70-75% of the time. And I think his 4-3 structure fits what they were trying to get to with Zimmer. He's not as diverse, but he fits we don't blitz a lot. That's a misnomer about Zimmer, was that he was actually really blitz heavy. On third down, he would get into his double A gap. He kind of got a name for it in 2021 when he was with the Vikings, but he's in bottom 10 of blitz rates, really. Eberflus actually, I think, had a higher blitz rate than he did this year. So to me, it looked like easy button. He's an established head coach coming in with an offensive, basically a career offensive coordinator who doesn't have head coach experience. Basically be the head coach of the defense. He's a linebacker guru in the industry. So what are the things that the Cowboys really need and have not had for almost, I wouldn't say almost better part of a decade, is a linebacker. I mean, 2 years ago, we were playing without a linebacker even on the field. So
yes,
to me, it made a lot of sense. The other thing that I don't think people understand is that Diggs and Bland are both off-ball corners.
Yes.
Meaning that they don't press, which for whatever reason, I feel like people think like Diggs in particular is a big press guy. He really isn't. They both are really good at playing off ball. Well, that's an easy transition from a man-dominant scheme in Quinn. You kind of had that diversity last year with Zimmer. And then now you're really going to more of a cover 3 base with Eberflus, which, if you think about it, zone eyes, man, well, they're playing off ball. And if you've played off ball man at all, it basically is like playing zone out there. You're very visual with it. You're not on ball. And so to me, it makes my first response was, okay, this makes sense. And it's actually probably going to work.
Okay. So I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to ask you, and you kind of already touched on it with Mike Zimmer's defenses, Dan Quinn defenses, Eberflus 4-down structure. He's going to give you that. And I was reading that in your piece. Tell me some of the similarities and the differences between Dan Quinn. Like, to me, you'll forget more about defense than I know, but I just remember Dan Quinn spamming cover 3. Micah, please get home. Is that Zimmer? Do you think we'll see Zimmer with that, or will Zimmer be more multiple on the back end? I mean, excuse me, not Zimmer. Will Eberflus be more multiple on the back end even than that? Because number one, he hasn't had a defensive end like Micah, so he'll know how to switch things up on the back. Because I just remember that playoff game that we played the Packers, and it was like, bro, yes, we're not stopping the run, but we're also running so much 3 that, Matt LaFleur just ripped us a new one, because it's like he knew exactly what he was going to get. And then Dan Quinn doesn't change. And so what are the differences, similarities between the 3, really?
Yeah, I mean, really, so Quinn and Eberflus are really kind of cut from the same cloth. So
Okay.
Quinn is a Pete Carroll guy. So that Legion of Boom cover 3 structure that everybody that basically Carroll kind of ruined the NFL with because it was so dominant. Everybody basically went cover 3, cover 1 for almost a decade. And then the spread hit around 2018.
Yeah.
Eberflus is actually a Monty Kiffin guy. And this actually goes all the way back to when he was with Dallas originally.
Yes.
Now, again, a little bit of a misnomer is that Tampa 2 means you play cover 2 all the time. That's Lovie Smith. He's not in the league anymore. Nobody runs cover. I mean, he literally ruined Derek Stingley, which I didn't know was possible, but he did for a year. But no, you don't play cover 2 every down. In fact, they only played cover 2, I want to say about 16% of the time. So this is you're only doing it on certain occasions and you're only doing it against certain things. So to me, Quinn to Zimmer, same structure. Zimmer gets a little bit more diverse, but you still are pretty static. So what you see pre-snap is what you're going to get post-snap. If he looks like he's bluffing for a blitz, probably going to get some sort of a blitz. If he looks like you're in quarters, you're probably in quarters. So if you can identify it, Zimmer's pretty much like that. They actually have had with Quinn and with Zimmer, they had the lowest disguise rates. So they weren't disguising coverages at all. Eberflus is going to align very much like that, but he's a little bit more center. So he would be like your center right. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're going to be conservative, but I'm going to throw in some pressures. They did have they were about almost 30% pass blitz rate this year, which is relatively high. So a third of the time they are blitzing. Most of this though is going to be off ball linebackers that are blitzing. So these are going to be your dogs, your fire zones, the stuff that everybody, if you've played Madden at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's really what you're going to get. I think what Eberflus does is he picks and chooses the times when to do it. I do agree with you. There were times with Quinn, it was like, I literally know what you're doing. You're going to play cover 1. You really don't have an answer. You're hoping Lawrence or Micah end up getting there. If he doesn't, it could be disastrous. We saw that when, either Diggs or Bland, who have not played together very often, when one of them gets hurt, you're kind of in trouble. And 2, when you play so much cat coverage, right? You play cover 1 and that guy's your guy and you're going to take him everywhere he goes. If you get into some of these matchups, you're going to be a problem. I think where you're going to see a massive improvement is in the run defenses. We saw this.
Can you say that again, Cody? Because I think that is music to Cowboys fans' ears.
Yes. So Quinn was he had kind of gone over the edge in the spread world, right? Of like, look, I don't care about stopping the run. We're going to go all in on pass and pass rush, kind of the Jim Schwartz. We'll just tackle the running back on the way to the quarterback type deal. Well, as you know, when you basically play with a bunch of quick defensive tackles, you run into a Cardinals team who runs 12 personnel and plays power football. And you're like, how are we getting 40 hung on us by the lowly Cardinals? And it's because you have no interior defensive run play, right? You can't stop anything. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, yes, we know, right? It goes back to the whole thing about running backs matter. We know that passing is more efficient than running the ball, but you pass to score, you run to win. And if you can't stop the run, and it doesn't matter whatever level it is, if you can't stop the run, you're just not going to win games. And so Eberflus is going to stop the run. That's one thing. Now, they struggled at the back half of this year, but that had a lot to do with personnel. They lost Andrew Billings, and they essentially had 2 quick threes. So they were the Cowboys, right? They didn't have anybody big inside. And so that, to me, I think will be where you see a production boost.
Okay. You guys, and chat box is showing you love. A few people already know who you are, and I love my chat because they want this. They want this type of information, Cody. So this will be a fun one. Cody, I want to ask you before we get into personnel. So we went over some of the differences. If there was one thing that you would, I guess it's subjective. If there was one thing that you would say is a weakness of Flus, what would that be?
I mean, it's static. You know what you're going to get. It's cover 3. I mean, Here's the deal with that. It's like he's not Gus Bradley, where we only run 4-down cover 3 and we don't do anything else. He's a little bit more nuanced than that, so he will change things up. So it's not like where Quinn was like, oh, we're only going to play cover 1. We only answer problems with cover 1. If we can't answer with cover 1, well, we don't work that, right? We'll run some trap 2, or maybe we go zone. But you get into that trouble of like where then you become predictable. I think, look, he's predictable. Teams know what, but they're going to be so fundamentally sound.
Yes.
So think of Zimmer, but a little bit more modified. Just we're going to run a little bit of a different system. We're not going to try and run a bunch of different things, but we're going to be, we're going to basically that back half of where we're fitting the run really well. We know where we're supposed to be in coverage. Players are making plays on the ball. That to me is what he's going to bring.
So, okay, because yes, one thing that I do know is he did lean into a lot of that double A. And I'll be honest with you, it did it did kind of like I won't say it got predictable, but you're like, okay, I know it's coming. Mm-hmm. And teams it gave teams fits when we played the Commanders. Jaden Daniels had fits with us because he would mug it, then he would walk back, or he would mug it and go, or he would mug it and Micah would go, or he would mug it and Kendricks would go. But there were times where I was like, okay, but he also would have his corners in Africa, and it's like, okay, so you're giving up those end breakers and just little things like that. I think that what you said about Eberflus being a little bit more sound. Yes.
It's cleaner. It's cleaner football. It's really just the way that you would do it. He did. And here's the thing with Eberflus. Eberflus is kind of in that generation of coaches where they're not old to where they're really, really stuck in their ways, but they're not young to where they might go crazy like Brandon Staley and like just
oh my God, what a flop!
Do some wild stuff, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to find himself. Right? We're not there. I think they started running a little bit more simulated pressures in Chicago. Now, what does that mean? That simulated pressure means that we're going to show like we're going to blitz, but then we only bring 4, but we're doing it from a blitz. So somebody is coming from somewhere and adding in. So he's added that element. I do think that we've seen in the past couple of years, and I'm going to use Quinn as an example with the Commanders. They went to the Commanders, realized really quickly they couldn't run a lot of cover 1. They had some really nice things that they were doing in the back end. So I don't think that there's not a way that he can't come to Dallas, maybe do a few different things. I don't think that he's not Gus Bradley in the Colts where no matter what, you're getting an over front, you're getting cover 3. And if he wants to get exotic, he'll send 6 on a 3rd down. Like we're not going to do that. I think that he's a little bit more nuanced, but you're right. It's going to be 4-3, 4-2-5, and it's going to be a cover 3.
Okay. This is great stuff. If you guys aren't already, please follow Cody Alexander. His @ is on the page. We're gonna get into some things, y'all. We're gonna get into some things. Here we go. You kind of segued into it. Personnel. The Dallas Cowboys, and again, you hit on this, Jack Sanborn. Before we get to Sanborn, when you look at what you have in Bland, hopefully Diggs at some point can come back and turn into just half of what he was, Cody. I'd be okay. You bring in Sanborn, you bring in Kenneth Murray, you have Micah Parsons, who is an A+ player in the league. He's a top 5 defender in the league. When you talk about personnel for this team, I want to work from the back end up. So I want to work from the safety play, the middle of the defense, to the D-line. And can Eberflus be who he wants to be? Let's talk about safety play. So, and we'll just talk about the whole secondary. So we'll go Bland, Diggs, your 2 safeties with Donovan Wilson and Hooker, which I think you can upgrade, but they aren't terrible. Like they aren't awful, but you can stand to upgrade those guys. I like Andrew Makuba out of Texas. I think he does some cool things. You talked about Kyler Gordon. As much as they use Kyler Gordon, I just did a mock draft, and I'm like, they use Kyler Gordon a lot. We don't have a player like that on this roster, but if you had one, you could. How do you feel about the back end with what Eberflus wants to do?
I will say this. I do think that they fit. So I don't
Okay.
think that it's going to be one of those things where, like, for instance, Quinn goes to the Commanders and they're like, we have nobody that can play man coverage. Sainer still isn't really that. St. Juice is more of his own guy. We gotta mix this up. You can't put Chin, who's 220 pounds, in man coverage like you could Hooker or Wilson, right? So I think when you look at this, you have a guy in Malik Hooker who can play coverage. So all of your match 3 stuff, you're going to be completely fine. All match 3 means is that we're going to play it really tight. This isn't country or zone cover 3 where everybody just kind of, going to vision dropping to a spot and then hoping that they can, read the quarterback. So we're going to play a little bit tighter. You have, you mentioned it with Mukwamu is slated as the nickel. But it's yet to be seen. Can he fit in the box? Can he blitz? Yes. Can he do all of the things? And, we were talking about this pre-show. If your nickel sets how much base you're going to play. Base is 4-3. If you have a really good nickel and you're the Buffalo Bills and you have Taron Johnson, you're playing nickel 80% of the time.
Sean McDermott.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you're playing him all the time. Bears are the same way. They want to play nickel. Eberflus want to play nickel about 80% of the time, 77% of the time. You only saw your 3 linebackers in there when it was like 21 personnel. There's a fullback on the field. Maybe they got rid of their F, which is their flex tight end. He's not on the field. It's 2 Ys, 2 basically glorified tackles out there. Now we'll get into our 4-3 and we'll take the nickel off. So to me, that's going to be the big question. And we saw this year. If there's a team to kind of study this, it would be the Chiefs. The Chiefs move McDuffie outside.
Yes.
So it forces them with Shamari Connors, who's a decent player, but he's not an all-pro nickel who can fit the run and blitz and do all the things McDuffie did. So what you end up doing is you have to play more 4-3, right? So if you look at the Chiefs numbers this year, they had to actually drop that number down. They're usually an 80% nickel team. Now they're around 70, right? So we're, you get in your regular 12 personnel, 11 personnel stuff will be in nickel, but you start getting into these bigger sets, we got to bring our guys in. So I think that will be something of a feeling out. I also want to say that this is a nickel league. I think there was only like 1 or 2 teams this year that actually played lower than 50% nickel defense this year. And that could be 5-1, that could be a 4-2-5, however they want to do it. But the back end, like I said, Hooker can play coverage. He can play your kind of down safety. He can match that. Both of them are pretty decent in their run games. I do think that like Donovan Wilson was our top, like at Field. I'm the head of football ops at Field Vision, which is a predictive analytics site. And we had him as the number 5 pass rushing safety. So this is somebody, you have some balance there. It's going to really hinge on Mukwamu as that kind of big nickel guy, how well he progresses. And then can they maybe bring somebody in the draft that maybe you can just plug and play, like let's stick in like a Drew Phillips for the Giants, who, he can fit the box. And he's also like 195 pounds, which is rare, but we can do that and we can live in
that. Cody, I want to do this before we move forward. I just want you to see the love that you are getting. This guy is very good. No, yes, he does. He does know football. He's extremely sharp. Sadiqa wants to know, she's a longtime supporter of this channel. What's your Twitter name? I think it's actually on his the Coach A is his Twitter name. And we'll make sure that we plug the websites as well. You guys, I told you guys we're in for a treat, and y'all just show like black people late to the cookout. Next time, be on time to the cookout. That's all I'm gonna say. Why do us folks got to be late to everything? I told y'all 5 o'clock. Yeah, 5 o'clock. We just having some fun. Cody Alexander, match quarters. Cody, I got a few more questions, and I'm gonna let you go because I know I know you coach. I coach. We could talk ball for 3-4 hours, and before you know, it's like, wait, I had something to do. Oh shoot, I was talking about coverages all day. Cody, I want to ask you about the middle of this defense, and then we'll get to the defense end.
Okay.
So we brought in Jack Sanborn, who you were high on. Again, this is no bias. You were high on him even before he signed with the Cowboys. So I think there's people that think that, he's a Cowboy now. we're going to pump him up. And that actually wasn't the case. And on your site, can you repeat the site again, Cody? And I'll put it in the description box.
Yeah, matchquarters.com is essentially where I run. That's my hub.
The hub, but then also the other site where you did the predictability.
The Field Vision.
Field Vision. Okay.
Yes.
So I was looking at some of the analytics on there, and you were higher on Sanborn than even people who maybe don't watch as much Bears content. So we bring in Sanborn. You have Maris Luafau. Damone Clark, I feel like, is out of favor with this this team, and he just doesn't have any reps. He didn't give him any reps. And then obviously you have DeMarvion Overshown, but he's hurt. And then the big one, Cody, is Kenneth Murray, the most polarizing one. That when he signed with the Cowboys on Twitter, it was he can't play to I love him.
Right.
He can't cover to he's a great blitzer. He runs, finds the ball. Cody, make that whole room make sense for this fan base.
Okay, so this is actually a trend that we're seeing in the NFL. I'm going to go back. I know it's the Cowboys deal, and we're like, why are we talking about the Commanders? But the Commanders are great. Yeah, Bobby Wagner, who's a box linebacker. He don't leave the box. He can play that A gap all day long. He's decent enough in coverage. If he has to stay on top of a running back, not Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey, you're probably going to be okay. So he can just stay on top. He can float into the flat. Then you have a Frankie Louvu, who is this hybrid guy. So he can line up as an edge linebacker. He can play off ball. He can do a bunch of different things. So that's really where you're seeing this. If you actually split this, the four guys you mentioned, you have Jack Sanborn and Maris Luafau. What are they really good at? They're really good coverage linebackers.
Yes.
They're okay at fitting the run, but if you give them an A gap, they can fit the A gap. If you need them to take a running back, they can take a running back. They can mirror a tight end with the help of a safety. They can do that. That's really good. What are they not really great at? Pass rush. But what do you have on the other side of that? Now we have Kenneth Murray, who's super athletic. He's a freak, right? But he is not great at fitting the run. This is a guy that
didn't know that.
Yeah, he is not. But that has always been the knock on him. He's been a freakish athlete. He just is not really good at read and react. So you don't want him sitting and just doing. So a couple of things that will help him out is in this cover 3 system, he's pretty much only going to be primary. Hey, you got one gap or you got a guy. That's it. You just got to fit the gap or you fit the guy or we're going to send you on pressure. He is really good at pass rush. He's actually a top 15 linebacker in blitzing and pass rushing. You pair him with a DeMarvion Overshown. If you really think it, the Kenneth Murray is really more of a stopgap, right? Like he's the guy. We're not spending a bunch of capital on him. He's kind of the holdover, waiting for DeMarvion Overshown. Hopefully, Overshown can play the back half of the year. We can ease him into it. He's not expected to play right away, right when he's healthy. We can get him out when he's ready. But we have that element of we have our box linebacker. We have our hybrid linebacker. Now we have those, and we have a 2 deep that we can now work with. So Jack Sanborn, like you said, is not sexy. But I would ask you, go look at his combine stuff. This guy is athletic. Now, do I think he's going to end up being Zach Bond? I don't think so. It would be awesome. But think of Zach Bond and what Zach Bond did for the Saints. That's what Jack Sanborn was doing for the Bears. You have 2 really good linebackers. He wasn't going to see the field very much. So they used him as what the old school. So if there's any old school football guys out there, the Ted linebacker, he lines up on the tight end. That's why they call him Ted. That's what he essentially played. He would spot guys if they needed it, or he played on top of a tight end in some of these bigger sets. So he can cover. We know that. Not a great blitzer. He's okay at the run, but I think the run defense can get better because he's playing traditional linebacker and not necessarily as a glorified 9 technique that's basically like just throw your head in there. So I think to make this linebacker group make sense, you have your hybrid guys in Murray and Overshown who you can blitz. Those are your blitzers. Those are your guys that are going to wreak havoc. If we want to get into a 5-man front just to throw a wrench in there, we can do that. Then you have Jack Sanborn and Luafau that can play that off ball. They can take the running back, and then they can be that guy that plays in the box.
Just the way you put it all together, it makes sense. And I think that, again, when you watch highlights, you watch Murray, and you don't know, is he run blitzing or is he diagnosing? When you see him make a play in the backfield, like, oh, but I'm with you. when you watch the film, you don't want him in the middle of your defense reading. Is this guard coming? Am I the force player? Oh crap, he just ran right past me. Because I remember that a lot when he played with the Chargers. And so Brandon Staley, we talked about it. And so just and let me ask you this. This is a good one. This is off the cuff. I don't have this written down, Cody. Can Eberflus fix some of his deficiencies, or does Eberflus say, you know what? You're good at this. We're going to supercharge this.
I think he can maybe clean up some of the footwork, but it's going to be, I think you are who you are at his point in the career.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's just the light bulb's going to go on. He can go, oh, I can read a guard pole, or I know how to fit in this front. I don't think that's going to be, I think if he can make it simple and he can blitz him to where he needs him or send him where he needs to, he's athletic enough to do it. Like we said, Overshawn was actually the number 4 blitzing linebacker last year before he got hurt in our field vision havoc ratings. And so you have 2 guys that could potentially be top 10 in blitz. So that's where, to me, I think you're going to see those guys be featured. And that alleviates a lot of the pressure off of Murray, feeling that he has to call the defense. He has to then know what gap I'm fitting and then what leverage point I need to be. Where am I supposed to be in coverage? Whereas you can have a guy like Jack Sanborn or Luafau. I really think Sanborn will probably end up getting start. I think they split a lot of time with Leofau, but he knows the defense, and I think you need to have that quarterback in the middle, kind of getting everybody lined up. So I think he'll wear the green dot if he is. I think if he stays healthy through.
That's what I tell people: is coaches love a guy that they're familiar with, that they can trust. Yes. They get in the jam. Hey, the D line is lined up wrong, the fit is wrong, whatever the case. Coaches like that, and every Bears fan that I've talked to, again, this is. Every Bear love Jack Sanborn. Now, He's not Tremaine Edmonds. He's not that athletic. He just isn't, and we spoke about Kyler Gordon. But I think the NFL is funny that way because he can go to another spot and things could look different. Okay. Let's talk about this D-line, and I'll let you go, Cody. Again, can't tell you this enough. Thank you. Cody, Matt Eberflus has never had a Micah Parsons.
Right.
He hasn't. You talk about this D-line with Micah Parsons, Oso Digizua, and they're just going to throw bodies and bodies and bodies at everybody else. Nealon, go. Sam Williams, go. Peyton Turner, go. Tyrus Wheat, go. Are we missing a one tech to make this thing successful? And what's your vibe when it comes to Micah? Are we letting him hang on the edge? Is he doing A-gap things? How do you feel it that Eberflus plays this?
I think now I will say this, they did get, Montez Sweat, the trade was a boon for them. It completely changed their defense. And Sweat is one of those. Now he's not Micah Parsons. He is though he's kind of in that upper echelon of defensive ends. You just kind of forget about him just because again, the Bears couldn't figure out whether they wanted to be good or bad on defense, but they could pass rush. I think that's the other thing that people forget about Chicago was their run defense was terrible, but they were still able to kind of produce in that pass rush. I think with Micah, we're going to have the same conversations that we had with Zimmer, is that Zimmer's going to say the same things that Eberflus is probably going to say. We want him playing defensive end. We don't want him playing off-ball linebacker. He's not, and this isn't a 3-4 where he's an edge and he's not Jared Verse with the Rams who's going to drop into coverage every once in a while. And then we want him rushing. And I think you saw this with Zimmer kind of like caved eventually and was like, look, I'll move you around on early downs, but I'm going to blitz you. Quinn did the same thing. Mm-hmm. You're a coach, sometimes there's a kid that's like, no, I'm this position. And you're like, hey, I got this position. We're going to call it. I always think of Don Brown with Jabril Peppers. When he got to Michigan, Jabril Peppers was a down safety. And basically he was a Sam linebacker. Well, you can't call Jabril Peppers a Sam linebacker now. Yeah. Okay, he'll transfer some. So he's I got this position for you. It's called a Viper. We're going to blitz you. We're going to move you around. But 90% of the time, and you don't tell the kid this, you're going to play near the box.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a Sam linebacker, but hey, you're the Viper. It's cool. I think with Micah, you saw this with Quinn. Quinn, obviously, you know the stories, was basically like very much player, let them do kind of whatever they want.
Yeah.
Zimmer was a little bit not like you early. That was one of my things. I even wrote about it at the beginning of last year. I wrote this article of the Joker, because Parsons can move around, but like Zimmer was very much like he ain't going anywhere. And I think if you look at it analytically, he is not very good off the ball. He doesn't know what he's doing in coverage. I don't think he wants to know, and that he doesn't need to know. That's okay. You can play defensive end. I think people get confused because of his size. People they see, oh, well, he's only like 240. He's not this 260, 270, prototype handing in the dirt defensive end. What he's really good at is blitzing. Right? Just blitzing that tackle, getting upfield, getting up. So you use him if you're going to do it. You can move him around on third down. That's fine. I'm talking on early downs. I think he plays. I think it helps him too. And this is to go to your second part of the question. Mozzie Smith can finally play. Yes, he can finally play the position that he was playing in Michigan. That is why he was drafted in the first round. I thought it was a very weird pick when they picked him in the first place with Quinn. I think they had thoughts that they needed a big plugger at nose, and then they were like, hey, can you lose like 30 pounds and basically play like Odigizua? Well, that messed him up. And then Zimmer was like, no, I want you to play nose. And so then you gain that weight back, and then you got to get recalibrate. I think they'll be like, look, and I think you can go, if you watch any Bears, go watch Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings isn't sexy. Sick and Bears. I'm a Baylor guy. He's not sexy, but he is going to tilt himself, and he's going to put his face mask through the ear hole of the center every single time on early downs. And then you take him off on third down. And he knows that. So if you can tell Mozzie Smith, all I need you to do is just knock back that center, take care of these A gaps, let Odigizua, who again is one of the better pass rushing defensive ends, he's okay at stopping the run. That's all you need to be, is okay. And then you I think the other thing, and you didn't mention him, but Dante Fowler as well is going to be there.
Yes. Thank you, Cody.
So you have in Micah, who is arguably maybe him and TJ Watt are at 1A and 1B, and then maybe you can throw in Myles Garrett in terms of that. But those two guys in particular are like 1A and 1B pass rush. Well, Fowler last year as a full-time starter was top 20 pass rush. It was a top 20 pass rusher in our field vision have rates, which means he can rush pass. So I think you lose a little bit of the run element with Lawrence not being there, but adding in some of these younger guys being rotational, but inside is where you want to stop the run. It's not outside. You want to stop it inside. And I think that this defense is setting up to where if Mozzie Smith can just play nose, he doesn't have to worry about third downs. You have Odigizua, who you can now say, hey, go be that hybrid quick three that we need you to be. You can eat up blocks for Micah. I think that to me is where I think you can win. And then the added value of having a Kenneth Murray and then Overshawn when he gets healthy as that kind of fifth blitzer guy, that's pretty scary with the secondary that I think can play pretty well.
Cody, I'll never forget drafting Mozzie Smith and Dan Quinn coming to the podium and saying he has pass rush ability. Because that's when I was like, wait, what? What do we? I thought you know what I mean? And that was the year. I'll never forget the year going into that year. I believe we set the sack record, or maybe it was after. And all these guys getting sacks, and I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know about that. Like, that's not how he played. He two-gapped at Michigan. He was physical at Michigan. Like, that's not like. And so I think that you hit that on the head. And even with Fowler, there were times last year, yes, Micah Parsons, but if Micah got hurt for 4 games, there was no juice on the edge.
Yeah, none at all.
And hey, you spent a second-round pick on Marshawn needing to be a defensive end, but I think he comes in, sub packages, and just, kind of stands the run up. But his, right now, his pass rush ability, he's going to have to develop more of that. Sam Williams is the interesting one because had he not gotten hurt, I think that he was trending somewhat the right way outside of the boneheaded penalties. But I love what you said about Osa. I still hold hope out for Mozzie Smith. I think that drafting a player without a plan that high is scary.
Yes.
And again, drafting him and asking him to be something that he's not is even more scary. And I think that's what Dan Quinn in this staff did. They'll say that they didn't, but it's clear. I mean, he lost all that weight, and they wanted to be a team that got a feel. So I think that kind of covers it. I will say this: I would love to have you back after the draft if we could just talk, possibly just okay, because I know you're doing a lot of work, but just if they whatever pieces they did get on defense, if we could piece that puzzle together from the draft, free agency, and to now who they want to be going into the season. But Cody, I got to tell you, I need applauses in the chat box. The chat box has been going crazy. We got almost 500 people in here. The listen back, I feel will even go more crazy. I got to tell you, I learned a lot. Like that's why the whole time I'm just sitting there like, wow, because I learned so much from you, man. I think that this was one of my best shows. Again, plug your stuff. Where can people find you? Where can they get all your information? Because this was a banger.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So on Twitter, you had Twitter handle there at @the_coach_A. Obviously, Match Quarters is the hub. So if you want links to anything, go to matchquarters.com. You can be a free subscriber. If you like what you want to dive in deeper, you can obviously pay for that as well. But I do have on most other socials from Instagram to to YouTube. If you just type in Match Quarters, you should be able to pop up. I'll pop up there, and I post probably 4 plays every day to kind of and go over it. I love defense. I want to be a teacher of defense, and I want quality information out there on defense. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yep, chat box loves you. And my chat box, they're gonna show a lot of love, Cody. I don't know if you can see the comment on the screen. But I'll make sure you guys, please. I'm gonna say this. I'm pleading with you all. Go follow this guy. It's not all the minutia. You know, on Twitter, sometimes I like to troll. I mean, I like to live, but I also want to learn as well. Cody doesn't do any of that. Cody is straight to the point. He's giving you the truth, but it's a good balance, man. And guys, you got to follow people and be around people smarter than you. He's one of those people that's smarter. He's one of those guys. So as always, guys, thank you all for liking, sharing, subscribing. It's your boy Foots the King, Cody. I can't wait to do this again. You guys, again, I said 1,000 times. I'm gonna say it 1,001. Go follow Cody Alexander right now. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your time, Cody. Peace.
Appreciate it. Thank you.